Today we're going to talk about point of view. Before you do this, make sure you have the actual notes that go with this presentation so that you can take notes on them and so you can analyze some excerpts and try to figure out the point of view. So if you don't have that, pause right now and find a copy of the notes. What we're going to do is look at several different points of view. There are 5 in literature. Maybe in the past you've only talked about 3, but today we're going to cover all 5. So first of all, there's first person point of view, and this is usually our most familiar. First person, the number 1 kind of looks like an I, that's how I remember it. And first person means the I or a we tells the story. So if I am telling the story, then logically I only really know the thoughts of myself. So whoever's telling the story, you would know their thoughts, and it would be I, or another way of first person is we if it's more than 1. This is probably the easiest to spot, but just be careful. If someone is talking and you say, I asked so-and-so, and she said, I like, then you got 2 different things happening. The I is telling that story, and the person telling the quote is the third person. Anyway, just be careful. It's whoever's telling the overall story, an I or a we, is first person. Second person is kind of rare, but a second person point of view means it's told from the reader's perspective, which could either be kind of stalkerish, like you are going down the street and you see someone. It's more like happening in the moment. Or it could just be like a how-to guide. Like first do this, second do this, third do this. So either you are supposed to be doing the thing it's writing about, or you are literally in the story as the character. So this one's kind of rare, but you are going to see some examples today. Third person, otherwise known as third person objective. So right here beside your notes, write objective, O-B-J-E-C-T-I-V-E. A third person narrator means a narrator tells the story and just says what is happening. A narrator would tell you what someone says or what someone looks like, but you can't know anyone's thoughts or feelings if it's just third person. So again, you could just call it third person, or it could be called third person objective, depending on the terminology. We are going to use third person objective just to be really clear, because technically all the rest of these are third person. So third person objective, you don't know anyone's thoughts or feelings. It might be like a textbook where it just tells you the events that happened, no judgments are in there. It could just be he said, she said, he said, she said. You're just giving information. You don't know anyone's thoughts or feelings. Third person limited, you still have a narrator telling the story, so it would say things like he said and she said, and you only know one character's thoughts or one character's feelings. So if there's multiple characters, you only know one character's thoughts. So limited means limited to one character. And the last one is third person omniscient. Omni means all, like science means knowing, so this literally means all knowing. So a narrator knows everything. A narrator tells a story and would know all the characters' thoughts and all the characters' feelings. This is very much most common in little kids' books, where it says like so-and-so was happy, but so-and-so was sad. You're already making a judgment about 2 different characters, and omniscient means all-knowing. So one more time, just for the record, first person means I tells the story. Second person is the you is in the story, either as a how-to or as a creepy stalker. Third person objective, limited, and omniscient are all a narrator is telling the story, but you just know different levels of thoughts. Third person objective, you don't know anybody's thoughts or feelings. You would just say what they said or what they did. Third person limited, you only know one. And third person omniscient, you would know everybody's thoughts and feelings. Okay, so we're going to practice reading some passages together. They're real short. We're going to try to figure out the point of view. Obviously, We want to find some evidence to justify this, so you could even like circle or mark things on your paper. And then after we've thought about it, I will show you the correct choice. So this kind of is just practice. Make sure all your answers are correct. And if you're like, man, I don't know why that is what it is, then let's talk about it. Okay, first one, the abominable snowman. You are a mountain climber. 3 years ago, you spent the summer at climbing school in the mountains of Colorado. Your instructor said that you had natural skills as a climber. You made rapid progress, and by the end of the summer, you were leading difficult rock and ice climbs. The question is, who's telling the story? Is it an I, a you, or a narrator? And let's narrow it down. So on your paper, write what you think. The answer to this one is it's second person. You have the you acting as the main character. So this is kind of a weird example, but that is it. Second person is pretty rare. Second one, outside the box. 3 shots, like thunderclaps, rang out from surround speakers in the basement rec room. A white controller jumped in Reid Anderson's hand each time he squeezed the trigger. Tactile feedback. A speaker in the controller made snapping sounds like the action of a pistol. Reid felt this more than he heard it. The shots made his ears ring. So what point of view do you think this is? The answer to this one is third person limited. So a narrator is telling the story because it doesn't use an I or a we. It says the guy's name. And it says how he felt. So it's limited to Reid, third person limited. We only know one person's thoughts. Teen Idol. I witnessed the kidnapping of Betty Ann Mulvaney. Well, me and the 23 other people in first period Latin class at Clayton High School, student population 1,200. Unlike everybody else, however, I actually did something to try and stop it. Well, sort of. I went, Kurt, what are you doing? Kurt just rolled his eyes. He was all, relax, Jen, it's a joke, okay? So let's think about this. Even though you have several characters and you have dialogue, who's really telling the story? Is it an I, a you, or a narrator who's telling the story? And what do you know? For this one, it's first person because the I is telling the story. Understood Betsy. Aunt Harriet never meant to say any of this when Elizabeth Ann could hear, but the little girl's ears were as sharp as little girl's ears always are, and long before she was 9, she knew all about the opinion Aunt Harriet had of the Putneys. She did not know to be sure what chores were, but she took it confidently from Aunt Harriet's voice that they were something very, very dreadful. What point of view do you think this is? The answer is omniscient. So you have several characters, Aunt Harriet and Elizabeth Ann, and if it says Aunt Harriet never meant to say, then you're kind of in her head. And she did not know what chores were. You're talking about the other girls, so when you know more than one character's thoughts and feelings and a narrator's telling the story, omniscient. Third person omniscient. I am number 4. The man brings his legs over the front of the cot when the shake starts again. A longer, firmer shake, and another crash, this time closer. The man gets to his feet and walks slowly to the door. Silence. The boy sits up. No, the man whispers, and in that instant the blade of a sword, long and gleaming, made of a shining white metal that is not found on earth, comes through the door and sinks deeply into the man's chest. Gross. So the question is, what point of view is this? This one is just straight third person or third person objective. If you read it, all it says is what's going on. There are no thoughts. You can infer that this man is being like quiet or cautious or sneaky, but it just says he whispers. Third person. The Magic School Bus. It all began when Miss Frizzle showed our class a film strip about the human body. We knew trouble was about to start because we knew Miss Frizzle was the strangest teacher in the school. What point of view is this? Who's telling the story? This one is an example of first person, and there's no I, but there is a we. We knew that trouble was about to start, makes it first person. Glinda of Oz. Ozma took the arm of her hostess, but Dorothy lagged behind. When at last she rejoined Glinda and Ozma in the hall, she found them talking earnestly about the condition of the people and how to make them more happy and contented, although they were already the happiest and most contented folks in all the world. This interested Ozma, of course, but it didn't interest Dorothy very much, so the little girl ran over to the big table on which was lying open Glinda's great book of records. What point of view is this? We have several characters. A narrator is telling the story, so is it third person objective, third person limited, or third person omniscient? The answer is omniscient. Here's your proof. It interested this person, but it didn't interest this person. Interest happens in your mind. We can't see that, so that's why it's omniscient. The 7 habits of highly effective teams. Habit 1, react. Blame all of your problems on your parents, your stupid teachers or professors, your lousy neighborhood, your boyfriend or girlfriend, or something or somebody else. Be a victim. Take no responsibility for your life. Act like an animal. If you're hungry, eat. If someone yells at you, yell back. If you feel like you're doing something you know is wrong, just do it. Hey, reminder, this is habits of highly defective teens. Please don't do these. So the question is, what point of view is this written from? The answer is second person. So how can you tell? And it's telling you what to do. It's like a how-to guide, how to be defective. So the answer is second person. Aragon inheritance. Aragon knelt in a bed of trampled reed grass and scanned the tracks with a practiced eye. The prince told him that the deer had been in the meadow only a half hour before. Soon they would bed down. His target, a small doe with a pronounced limp in her left forefoot, was still in the herd. He was amazed she had made it so far without a wolf or a bear catching her. What point of view is this? At this point, you should be able to eliminate a couple. Is this a how-to guide? How to go catch a deer? Is this I was catching a deer? If not, then it's got to be third person, either third person objective, third person limited, or third person omniscient. Which is it? The answer is third person limited. It is limited to what one character thinks. It says he was amazed, and amazed is a thought or a feeling. The grapes of wrath. The last rains lifted the corn quickly and scattered weed colonies and grass along the sides of the road. In the last part of May, the sky grew pale and the clouds that had hung in high puffs for so long in the spring were dissipated. The sun flared down on the growing corn day after day until a line of brown spread along the edge of each green bayonet. The clouds appeared and went away, and in a while they did not try any more. The weeds grew darker green to protect themselves, and they did not spread anymore. So here's kind of a weird one because there's no people. It's all like plants. So what's the point of view of the plants? And the answer is just third person. You can't know someone's feelings if there are no people. So they're just describing what's going on pretty well, actually. Good job, John Steinbeck. So third person objective, or just straight third person. Okay, so before you move on too much, you need to pause this video and go get your notes checked to get credit for it if you weren't doing this with a live class. Once you've gotten your notes checked, you're going to practice online. So if you go to Schoology, you need to submit done for your notes, and it will let you move on to the next thing that says online interactive practice quiz. The goal is to get at least 80% accurate. More is always awesome. Take a screenshot when it says 80% or better, and then you upload the screenshot as an attachment. If you need help with that, ask somebody. Once you've done it, that's just like do it till you get it. For goodness sake, don't move on until you're ready. Then you're going to take a point of view summative. It's only 5 questions. If you get at least 80% correct on that, then you may move on to the final project. If not, you need to review your notes, ask some questions, go over what you missed, and take the second one. And then that one is what it is. So don't fail it without good effort. Just as a reminder, here are more just little reminders of different points of view. If I were you, I would kind of have my notes out even once they're checked, and you can use them on your test and whatever else.